The following is a rebroadcast of a program that was originally presented live on October 16, 1989.
Major funding for the following program was provided by Friends of Iowa Public Television and the Des Moines Register. From the studios of Iowa Public Television, Student Voices, Student Choices. Here's your host, Tina Yothers.
Hi, and welcome to Student Voices, Student Choices, a program where we'll discuss issues important for today's teenagers. In this program, we will communicate, and that's the topic, teen communication. Why can't you be more like? They just don't listen. Gee, I don't know if I should. Does that sound familiar? Well, today we'll find out that communicating is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. What's your name?
Bethany Burno from Caroline Middle School.
And what are some ways that you communicate?
Writing the editorial in the school newspaper for our media class, the way I dress, my facial expression, eye contact.
Well, that's good. I mean, you see, these are just a few of many ways that we communicate. And here in our studio, we have to demonstrate how we communicate through art is Lynn Jones from Marion Behavioral Health Center in Sioux City. Lynn?
I'm an art therapist from Marion Behavioral Health Center, and I coordinate a program for kids from dysfunctional families. It's a treatment program, and these kids, we use a lot of different creative means of expressing ourselves. Sometimes it's real difficult to communicate with peers, with family members, even with ourselves. We're not in touch with what's going on with ourselves. So we use music, we use dance, we use a lot of art, creative dramatics, videos. One of the things I wanted to talk about with y'all today is the art aspect and expressing yourself through art. And you don't have to be an artist to express yourself with art. It's whatever's inside of you that you want to let out on paper. I say, go for it. I'm not an art teacher that needs to say, no, it needs to look this way in this corner. So I'm real open to whatever someone will draw that's an expression of how they feel. And I brought a couple of slides to just give you some examples of how the kids have been expressing themselves through my program. This first one is a child who was feeling pretty good about herself. You know, you can tell by the color choice, the size of the figure, the rainbow, the sun, the expression, just feeling pretty good about where she's at. And that's real important. Self-esteem and developing that feeling good about yourself, I think, is one of the key things for us, the confidence to take a risk, to share. This next one is, it was a fun dance. We had done this great creative dance with scarves and stuff. And one of the girls said she just felt so much joy, so much excitement, and wanted to draw a picture of it. And that's, I remember just by looking at this picture how much fun it was and how much excitement and just being able to just have fun and not worry what you look like. And this is her expression of how she felt about that. And I think as you look at it, you can just get the feeling of how much fun that was. This next one, real different vein. Probably all of you have felt this way at some time. I know I have. This was a real turning point for this person in our group. He had been real to himself. Everything's fine. I don't have any feelings. I'm fine. I'm in control. But I'm kind of feeling about like I want to kill myself. And what was going on was he was stuffing all these feelings, not allowing himself to express. With this, he finally was able to say, I am so angry. And in a non-threatening way, he was able to express it on paper and work through some of those real angry feelings instead of needing to act it out in some inappropriate way. So those are some examples, and we will later on be talking about some that you all drew to express your feelings through artistic ways.
Thank you, Lynn. On our program today, we'll answer questions about teen communication from our studio audience and from 6 school phone line centers from around the state. Now here to help us answer these questions are Patty Campidelli, I'm sorry, a clinical social worker with Mercy Psychological Service in Des Moines. Eric Burke, a peer helper from Ankeny High School. Missy Hartman, a peer helper from Algona High School. And Topper Steinman, a school counselor and consultant from Champaign, Illinois. Okay, to start our show off, I think we're going to go to the studio audience for a question.
Hi, I'm Jill Stivers from Norwalk, and I was wondering, besides talking, are there other forms of communication that would help a relationship?
Well, I think the way you act towards a person, I mean, you know, when you have a relationship with a person, are you talking about friends or boyfriends or? Yeah, both. Well, just your expressions. I mean, you can never tell somebody that you love them enough. You know, I mean, I don't know. Does that, you know, telling a person how you feel about them really helps a relationship, you know, continue and grow, I think.
I think sometimes it gets real scary to say what you think and feel, although that's probably the most real thing we could do, is to tell people what we're thinking and feeling. But that's not easy to do. That wasn't easy for me to do when I was 12 or 15 or 17, and sometimes it's not easy for adults to do. So other means that I use, I do a lot of writing. I write notes, I write letters, I write feelings. I think Lynn's point about drawing, and Missy, Eric could probably pick us up on a couple of ways that...
just doing little things for friends and boyfriends or whatever. Just like leaving them a little note or just sending them a rose once in a while, or just little things like giving them a hug can do a lot besides talking, I think.
I think your body contact is more, that's a good way. If you don't have trouble with your feelings, like saying stuff, your body contact, like moving close to them in the car or something like that, or on the table.
Giving them a hug or something, yeah.
Reaching over and feeling their hand, just to know that, just to tell them that you're there.
Okay. We have a school on the phone, Corwith Wesley Laverne High School in Corwith.
Hi, this is Chris Roberts.
Hi, Chris.
How do you communicate within a family when no one is ever home?
I think
this to Patty?
I think Patty should.
Okay. Some people communicate when people aren't home. I think we communicate in lots of different ways. By the way we keep our room, you know, the messages that get left, are you supposed to take out the garbage or whatever. Sometimes, too, I think we leave notes to each other, and people do that with having parents now who work so much. They're not home, and so we end up leaving, you know, notes for each other to try to do that, to make communicating as easy as possible. Do you have something specific in mind?
Eric?
Hello?
Is the caller still there?
Are you still there? Oh, okay. Well, that, leaving notes and doing that, but also just, you know, just understanding that they have to work or, you know, there's a lot of understanding that has to be done.
I think I was going to mention, too, in addition to what Patty's talking about, sometimes, and what I was curious about from the caller's point of view, if there's some resentment attached to that. Like, I want to talk to somebody about the fact that I'm happy or sad or mad or whatever, and if they're not around for me to do that, I can build up a lot. And I think that part of what Lynn was showing us in the beginning was a buildup of a lot of feelings that somebody was carrying with him or her, and that can be real frightening. And so if it's resentment that's attached, I think it's real critical to not let that build up. And if there's nobody home to talk with, you might find an uncle, a relative, somebody at a school, teachers, counselors, ministers in churches, people like that to reach out to. Or I have kids, I work as a counselor in a middle-level setting, who talk with stuffed animals. They talk with cats. And that, as foolish as that sometimes sounds, those things don't talk back, and they don't make us look stupid.
I think another thing you can do with your family is just plan. I mean, we do this, like, if you can work something out. I know it's hard because everybody works, but like a lot of times just Sunday afternoons or something, just plan a family time together, when you can all get together and just catch up on the week or something, you know, once a week or whenever you can work it out, just, you know, have, you know, communicate sometime when you can, everybody can get together.
Okay. We have a phone call from Canesville Alternative High School in Council Bluffs. Hello, you're on.
Yeah, a lot of our teens down here are in group homes or something like that, and a lot of them do not feel like going to school because they feel like they won't fit in.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question again?
Okay, a lot of our teens down here are in group homes or something like that. They don't like going to school because they feel as if they won't fit in. I was wondering how you communicate to people like that.
Yeah. Okay, the question was communicating in group homes. There are a lot of kids that are sent to group homes that are away from their families. You know, it may be problems in the house or maybe whatever, but they're sent into group homes, and it's hard for those kind of kids to communicate with one another because they have such different backgrounds. I think the main thing to try to fit in anywhere is to be yourself and not try to be something you're not. Don't play a role of someone you're not. You're put on this earth as a person, not to try to be something else. You know, and when you go to these places, you try to fit in and dress the way they dress. That's a way of communicating, trying to fit in, you know, by dressing a certain way or acting a certain way. You know, I mean, working in school is like a group home. There's a group of different styled kids. You know.
It's amazing to me, Tina, when I work with preteens and teens in school, the Erics and the Missies and those who are at 8th, 9th, 10th, 7th grade ages, not very many of them feel like they're normal. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure at 13 I wanted to feel like I was normal and I wanted to fit in, and I didn't want anybody to notice the zit that was on my cheek that morning. And I didn't want them to see that I wore these stupid socks because my mom got on my case about it. And I didn't want them to see that, you know, my hair was doing whatever my hair did. And so I would go remembering a lot of feeling real strange and like I wasn't fitting in. And the biggest thing I wanted to feel was normal. When you accentuate that with kids who take on other problems with that and maybe end up in group homes, I think it's double jeopardy. It becomes real difficult. And Patty works with that kind of kid a lot. I mean, you're connected with them a lot.
And I think the hardest things about not fitting in is, you know, if we're in a group home or if we have, you know, parents who are divorced or alcoholics or a myriad of other problems, is that we feel like we are real different than other people, and actually we all have something in common, and that's that we all have feelings. It doesn't matter what kind of a home we come out of, we all have the same kinds of, we can feel the same feelings. And that's one way to communicate, and a way to help fit in, too, is to take a risk, and it's real scary, but to take a risk and get to know some people and tell them about how you feel, about being new, because, you know, we've all been new someplace, somewhere. You know, if you went to kindergarten or for the very first time or moved from a different school, you know what it's like to be new and in some place you've never been before. And that's one way that we can communicate, and we all have that in common. You know, that is a real common thing that we all share. And so if you live in a group home and maybe your parents, you think they're different, well, they may be, but you have other kids that aren't so different than you are.
Teenagers are the same all over the world. We all want the same wants, desires, and needs. And, you know, it's just a matter of time and life to, you know, get into that. Okay, I think we're going to go to a question in the audience.
My name is Stephanie Eichmann. I'm from Stella Junior High School. And I would like to know, when you tell one of your parents something in confidence, well, why do they go and tell the other parts of the family and the other parents?
Being in a normal household, how would you, when you tell your parents something, do they?
I would think one reason why they might is because they don't know how to cope with what you're telling them, or they don't. It's just like if someone tells you a secret, it's just killing you inside to go tell somebody else. Mm-hmm. And they think that if, like, another friend or another daughter or son is there, they can tell them, and it'll just get off their back.
When you see these articles or commercials that say, you know, talk to your kids about problems, it's easier said than done. I mean, how many times do you ask your parents about sex, drugs, and everything else? And it's hard to communicate with your parents. And when they're faced with that communication, they're scared. They don't know what to tell you, and they don't want to tell you something wrong that will mislead you. So they do talk to other people and get other views. Okay, we have another phone call from St. Paul, the Apostle School in Davenport.
Hi, I'm Julie Dorn from St. Paul's in Davenport, and I'm wondering, how do you tell a friend you think they are making a mistake about something?
Well, I think if you're a true friend, you would tell that person what they're doing wrong, and do something about it. I mean, that's what friends are there for, to guide you and to help you along. I mean,
I think that is definitely being a true friend, because I've run into problems like that with friends that have been in relationships that the guy has been cheating on them, or they've had problems with things, and they don't know. And I always ask myself, well, what should I do as a true friend? Do I tell this person? Are they going to hate me? Am I going to hurt them? But I find out in the long run that they would rather I tell them, so they knew. They think they're going to get mad if they find out that I knew and then I didn't tell them. And so I think that's a better thing to do, is to tell them, because they're gonna say, well, if you knew, or if you were seeing this, why didn't you confront me with it, or why didn't you? If they realize that you're a true friend, then they're gonna understand you telling them, and they're gonna accept it, and they're not gonna turn on you.
Yeah, the usual case is that something happens to that friend, and you said, gosh, I should have told her, or I should have told him, and you regret that for the rest of your life, because something may have happened bad to this person. So whenever something happens, you should put your input. I mean, what is it going to hurt you?
Tina,
okay.
Sometimes, if I could add, sometimes I think how we tell people is as important as whether we tell them.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you say to a friend, man, you fool, why are you doing, once in a while that pushes them back and now if your friendship's real tight, you might be able to get by with that. But we send a lot of you messages, you fool, you shouldn't be doing that. What are you, crazy? I don't know, what's wrong with your mind? And I think if we come from our feelings rather than interpreting theirs, like, I'm scared for you. I'm scared you're going to get hurt. I'm scared something's going to happen. Now, they don't usually say, gee, I didn't know that. I'll change. But at least it's not you judging them. It's you telling them what you think about what they're doing. I think that kind of stuff is real important, rather than to play judge and jury for them. It's just let them know what you're feeling about what they're doing. And that can be pretty powerful stuff.
Okay. We have an audience question.
Yeah, my name is Christopher Nichols. I am from Belmont, Iowa. And my question is, how do you think communication affects one's personality?
Patty?
Can you repeat it? How does communication affect?
How does it affect one's personality?
How does it affect one's personality? I think a couple things. Most of us have some type of personality already that we have, and we tend to communicate our personality. Sometimes what happens in families, for example, if you're told, a couple things happen if you live in a family where parents or brothers or sisters, whoever, just say, oh, just shut up. Okay, one personality of person's going to shut up, and they're not going to say anything, and they'll apologize. Oh, I'm sorry. Another personality might say, I'm not going to shut up, and they're going to come right back at you. So part of it just depends on our own selves and how, we communicate. Sometimes poor communication, or communication that is attacking to people, will cause others to shut down. And sometimes it causes other people to come back at them. And I think communication that's positive, or communication like Topper was talking about, where you let someone know how you feel, it lets them be able to talk more about what's going on, and maybe to take a risk and be more honest.
Okay, we have a phone question from Forest City High School in Forest City.
Hi, I'm Carrie Reaper, and I'm from Forest City. I was wondering, how do you cope with parents who don't communicate with you, but instead they talk down to you?
Topper?
Yeah, it's a good question. How do you communicate with parents who won't communicate with you but talk down to you? I think, again, I'll give you some examples, but one of the things that I know younger people feel, that I felt, is you're powerless. You've got these ogres as parents, and you can't let them know especially if it's negative, you can't let them know what you think. You might try a couple of things. One is put it in writing. Writing is real powerful, and sometimes it's not quite as confrontive. Again, you might tell them, I get hurt when you do this. I get hurt when you compare me with my brother, or you talk to me about what my sister's doing. I think those are ways to get at that. I think that when you talk to parents is real important, that if you catch parents at a real hyped up time of energy and they're real anxious about stuff, you probably need to pay real close attention to not catching them then, and to catch them at a time when you see things are a little more cool. So those would be some examples, and I appreciate the question a lot because that's hard.
Well, that's a likely problem with a lot of problems vend out from that. Once a parent tells a person or their child that they're bad and look at you, you never do anything right, that can ruin a child's life. That can really make a strong impact on your life. There's a question in the audience.
Hi, I'm Crystal Ikesty from Stella Junior High, and my question is, how do you tell a parent something that you know is going to hurt them?
Something that has to be done, but what do you think?
Just like the topper said, I feel statements. You don't want to come out and say, you done this and you done that. You might want to say, I feel angry because you have done this, or I feel you have done this to hurt yourself, or just I feel statements are one way to get started. Or just sit down and take it easy with them. Don't just come out and say it like that. Just kind of ease into what you want to say and help them out.
I think a lot of times they'll be very happy that you did tell them, and they say, well, I didn't realize I was doing this, or I didn't realize, and they'll say, well, I'm glad you told me. I can see that now, and I can do something about it. I think they'd rather you tell them, and so then they find out somehow else, so they can keep their trust in you, and by telling them yourself.
Yeah, you should definitely confront them if it's really hurting you and your lifestyle.
I think sometimes, Tina, too, if this sounds manipulative, and it sort of is on my part, and I hesitate at encouraging people to do this and to be manipulative, because that's not what it's all about. But once in a while, I think we only talk with our parents when we're concerned about something they're doing wrong, or they only talk with us when they're concerned about something that we're doing wrong. And if there's a way, you might start with the parent by saying, Mom, I really like it that you care a lot about me, you spend time with me. I am concerned about something, and I'm concerned that it seems to me you're real critical of me and what I wear, and I don't know, and so I think, again, communicating positively versus coming from the negative all the time is an idea that might get over some of that. I'm scared she's going to yell at me and not like me because of what I'm doing.
Okay, we have another school from the phone. Corwith Wesley Laverne High School in Corwith. Hello.
Hi, this is Jenny Weber. I'd like to direct my question to Mr. Topper Steinman. How do we better communicate with at-risk students, either students who are suffering from the loss of a loved one, a student who is maybe mentally handicapped, or a student who is suicidal or depressed?
I think you're on to a good start. By that, I mean by just having the sensitivity to ask the question, how do you communicate with at-risk kids, tells me that that person is probably accepting. One of the things I think we don't do enough of is accept people at whatever level they're at. And we show that by, if I look at Missy and I'm open with her and I ask her what she thinks and I find out and I listen to her, I'm probably showing her that I care about her. If she's talking to me and she's at risk and she says, and my parents are divorced, and I say, everybody's got parents who are divorced, Missy. I mean, really, talking about something that's, well, obviously I haven't done a lot to help her out. So a couple things I think are real critical to the caller. One is acceptance. We express that by how we look and how we listen. And two is that caring that Eric and people talked about before with that touch. And three is getting them some support help around them. And Patty does it for a living. I mean, working with at-risk kids. And I don't know if you have things to add to that, Patty. What?
And I think being honest, so many times in the work that I've done with kids is that they feel that their parents aren't honest with them, or that people, not just parents, but people haven't been honest with them. And we all deserve to have people be honest with us. And that's what my impression is what a lot of kids want and need. We all need that. Mm-hmm. Someone just to tell us like it is and not cover it up, because so many times we're not told because we're kids and they think that, oh, I'm too young, you're too young to understand. And that's not true. Kids can understand a lot. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's real important that we be honest, as well as what Topper said, and be accepting. It's
and a lot of these situations where the kids are in bad situations, and most that go to therapy for it, they're born into this society with stones thrown at them since the beginning. And they have to deal with that, plus the problems on their own. So, trying to accept all this, it's really hard. We have some questions in the audience.
Hi, my name is
Mara Koenig, and I'm from Stillwell Junior High, and I was wondering, how can teens communicate better with adults, like either, whether it's a parent or a coach or a teacher? How can they communicate better with them?
Well, being a teacher at a school.
I want to turn that to our two teens.
Oh, okay.
I don't mean to redirect that, I guess, Tina, but I'm real curious about how they communicate with us at 17 or 18.
Okay. I just know keeping everything open and always, I have a coach that I like to always, or with everyone, all my teachers and coaches, always let them know what's on my mind, and then that way I can hear their side too. Hear both sides. They know how I'm feeling. They know what I'm thinking. They're not questioning whether what I'm. They're not questioning me. They know what's on my mind, and I can hear from them. And that way I feel free to ask questions that I'm really wondering about, because I know people always have questions. I know from me that all of you probably always have questions that you're wondering, but you just never ask. But I always try to keep things open so I can ask them. And then I can hear what they're thinking too, and then I know what's going on.
Okay, well, what about boys?
Well, I think that if you're going to confront them, you don't want to put them as a bad guy. I mean, you don't want to go up and tell them that, push them into a defensive area. Mm-hmm. You don't want to make it as an argument. Just like I said before, an I feeling. I feel this. I feel angry when you embarrass me in front of all the other kids, when you put me down or something like that. If you put them as a defense, then they're going to think, oh, she's trying to put me down, so I'm going to put you down even more, so I can have more power.
There's a big thing between communication with young people and adults. Young people want to, they have a thing against people, older people, and they just keep that to themselves, and they give this hard cover,
I think the more private, the better sometimes. Like not blurting it out, because we don't want to be any more embarrassed than you do in a class, and why are you always picking on me? Man, you make me sick kind of stuff is probably not going to cut it in a whole class. And the other thing I think, too, is I think we ought to wipe out the stereotypes that all old people, I'll put myself in that category, aren't out to get you any more than all young people are all doing drugs and sex and alcohol. And so I think we ought to cut the stereotypes and free each other up to not put us all in these little clusters and get tied up in that.
Okay. We have a phone call from North Kossuth Middle School in the Sea City.
What do you do when, your parents, they try to pick your friends and they won't let you hang around with a certain group of people because they think you're a bad influence?
They think you're a bad
influence?
They think
they're a bad influence to you.
Tammy? Do you want to answer that?
I've had that problem. I used to have some friends that my family didn't approve of, but I didn't turn away from them, but it was hard because your mom and dad don't understand why you have to have, they don't understand, well, why do you need to hang around these people? They're bad, but you don't understand that. You think, these are my friends, these are the people I want to be with. But I'm not sure what to do, how to address your parents with it, because I just eventually grew out of it, but that's hard. Because I had that problem. I'm not sure.
It's really hard for parents to understand why you like certain people with problems, and when usually you want to be friends with these people to see why they do these things and try to get them out of it. I know along the line I wanted to be friends with some bad girls because I wanted to see what motivated them to be that way. What's driving them to be this way? You work with people professionally, young people. How would...
My sense about parents who try to dictate their kids' friendships are that they're trying real hard not to have you make the same mistakes that they did. It's like, and I'm not saying that's fair, but that's my sense about what goes on, is they don't want you to make the same mistakes that they do, and they're trying to protect you, that's their purpose. And that doesn't always feel real good for us, and of course, I didn't understand that either when my parents wanted to do that for me. I didn't understand it then. But that's my sense, is they don't want you to make the same mistakes as they did. That doesn't mean that, I think we all need to make mistakes, that's how we learn. But that's my sense about why parents, try to pick your friends, is they don't want you to make mistakes and maybe, get into trouble. That's kind of what that's about.
Get real scared.
Okay, yeah.
And we get controlling. And, the choices that you have, you can go behind your parents' back and do it anyway. I wouldn't recommend that. You can kind of give in to your parents and say, gee, okay, you can kind of tell me who I can be friends with, and that doesn't feel good to you. And the other thing is you can try to negotiate. How about if I bring them over Friday, you could meet them? I think sometimes parents are real scared of what you look like or your friends look like is what they are. And if they see you dress like Tina, obviously she does drugs because she's got that long thing on, and plus she wears funny things around her neck. And, well, if you got to know Tina, you'd know that that's about the exact opposite of who and what Tina is. But we get real scared and we make, again, assumptions based on some things as adults that are really stupid.
It's the old statement, you can't judge a book by its cover. Whether a person wants to dress a certain way doesn't mean that they're bad or they're, a bad influence. Okay, we have a question in the audience.
My name is Laura Langdon, and I'm from Stowe Junior High. And I was curious how you can communicate better with an argumentative parent or a teacher.
That's hard. I think everyone has teachers or people.
Parents win, right?
Well, just like what Topper said, you don't want to confront them in front of a classroom. You kind of want to confront them in private. Because if they're going to, like you said, if you confront them in front of everybody else, they're going to feel defensive and they're going to feel like you're trying to put them down and you're trying to make them out as a bad guy. You want to confront them like after class, or just go up and say, can I talk to you after class? And don't go off and say, I don't like the way you're doing that. I don't like the way you're doing this. Just say, I feel, just like I'm getting back at that I feel statement.
Okay. Sometimes I feel it's just better to, just for that time to say okay and walk away and let them think about it a little bit. Maybe they'll come back the next day, say, okay, I realize I was, just say okay and agree with them for a while and just let it ride for a little bit.
Good timing for it.
Okay,
I think listening, too. Sometimes what we want parents to do with us is listen to us. Well, parents want to be heard also. So you might say, okay, so you're mad because I said I wasn't going to go out this Friday, and now I'm really harping on going out again. And okay, you're mad about that. I think we need to hear our parents, which is not, we feel it's their responsibility to listen to us, but not our responsibility to listen back. And that's a two-way street.
Okay, we have another phone line from Bellevue High School in Bellevue. Hello.
Hi, this is Amy Hutchcraft. How do you deal with rumors in a small town when you know everyone and everyone knows you?
Rumors in a small town?
Yeah.
I think rumors are a basic thing in every town. Small, big, huge, tiny. It goes around everywhere. And, being in school, that's the main thing in schools. They don't know what to believe.
You just got to remember that rumors don't last and the truth does. And because rumors are terrible. I think everybody thinks, that their town is just the worst. I know we do in our town. We think that rumors are just terrible and that we just got to be the worst town ever. But you just got to remember that they're not true, and just know that and the people that are important to you know that it's not true, and deal with it that way, and don't worry about all these people what they're going to think, because they're going to realize that it's as somebody was spreading it and that it's not the truth.
Well, it's just like all these magazines that rag on the entertainers. Schools don't have these magazines, so they can't print them every week. But people in my situation and some others around me are ragged all the time for things. And these are just basic little rumors that are really immature things. But people go by these things sometimes, and it's scary.
How do you deal with that, Tina, and still stay healthy for you?
You just have to take it with a grain of salt, really. You can't take it personally. It's like, what my whole thing is? As long as you know what you're doing, and your friends, your true friends, that's when you can tell your true friends. If they believe the hype, if they go by what other people are saying about you, or if you have this attitude or something. You just have to know what you're doing and be stable with yourself. And once you have that, things like this go right over your head, or actually under your feet.
I think one of the things I want to speak to a small town is that we even keep rumors going because we're too afraid to go ask the person we heard the rumor about, to take that risk and communicate with them. Is this really true? I heard that. No, instead we'll go ask, our girlfriend or our boyfriend and say, did you hear this? Instead of really going to ask that person and to communicate directly with that person. And that's what rumors are about. And we keep those going, and we can stop them if we just go ask that person.
We call the game He Said, She Said, where it's real frightening. It's scary.
Okay, we have an audience question.
My name is Tiffany Becker from Atlantic High School. What do you do when your parents want to know everything you do on the weekends? They want to count for every minute.
I know that I have a curfew, and my parents have to know where I'm at. I don't know about every minute. That would be kind of hard, because it's so spontaneous. But what do you do when your parents want to know?
Honestly?
Honestly.
They may not be watching.
Mom, I'm at a party right now. Oh, really? No.
I'm not too sure what I should say. My mom's watching now.
They give your lines away, huh? No, that's a real serious
You want to
question.
tell them honestly, I think. It helps. I'm not saying that I do all the time, but...
It's easier said than done.
Right. If you tell them honestly, and perhaps they come and check up on you, and you're at that place, then they're going to think, well, I guess he is there. And I guess I can trust him now. But if you go off and you're the type of parents that like to check up on you, and you're off doing something else, and it's not going to work.
You think, gosh, why are my parents checking up on me? Do they trust me? Don't they like me? Don't they, you feel that. And it's not that. They're just looking out for your well-being. If you have to lie about where you are, then maybe you shouldn't be there. But there are some cases where parents don't want you to be anywhere. So, it's easier said than done. We have a phone line from Canesville Alternative High School in Council Bluffs. Hello, you're on.
Hi, this is Alan, and I have a stress problem. And when I'm angry and no one will listen to what I have to say, sometimes I go for a walk or ride a bike or something like that. And it's better than hitting something also. But I'd rather talk about it. What can I do?
Do you want to take that, Patty?
I'm glad to hear that you go do something about your anger, first of all. And what happens with people, and we all have that, is we get this kind of big adrenaline rush when we're mad, and you need an outlet to get rid of that anger. And I just, would really encourage you then to go ahead and talk to someone, like a school counselor, a parent, someone you trust, and a peer helper, a peer counselor, someone who can help you deal with that. And I'm just real glad to hear, though, that you're doing something constructive with your anger. And there's lots of things, too, that you can do in terms of running and hitting a punching bag. I'd get in my car and scream real loud with the windows rolled up, and that works. There's lots of things you can do to get rid of that first rush, instead of hurting yourself.
We have another phone call from St. Paul Apostle School in Davenport. You're on.
Hello, I'm Ted Dickinson from St. Paul, and I'd like to address this question to Tina. I know on your show, Family Ties, acts can be very hard to get along with. What ways can you suggest to communicate with strong-minded people?
It's difficult. The script was always written, but you just have to do your best and get your point across, and don't let people like that bring you down, and don't let people that are so strong not make your views matter. Everything that you have to say is important. Your views matter, and you can't let people that are so strong-headed and so narrow-minded get in your way of your views.
We get sometimes, Tina, in these word tug-of-war games,
yeah,
where, I'll say, well, I think kids should be seen and not heard. Yeah, but we got feelings too, and we got ideas. Yeah, but what do you know? You're only 14. Yeah, but when you were 14, I'll bet. And we do that yeah, but stuff a lot. And I think in those settings, people don't take, and maybe it's the teen's responsibility, I mentioned this once before, don't take the time to listen to what the other person's saying that can disarm some of that offense. When we slow it down and we watch our voice tone, that rush that Patty talks about, and we look at our faces, and if you do that in a mirror, you're likely to see, yeah, I mean, it's leaning and all that, and it's just going to get real offensive both ways. And I think it's time to slow some of that down and try to hear what somebody else is saying.
Okay, we have a question in the audience.
Some people, they come from divorced families or abusive families, and then they finally get out of it, and they're all closed up when people want to help them and be friends with them and stuff. And how could you get them to open up?
I had a foster sister that we got from a group home, and she was abused all her life, and she was taken out of that home style and that lifestyle, and she was very into her, she didn't want to say anything. She didn't want to let her feelings out and tell people about it. And once they start telling you about it is when their problems start to go away. I think discussing your problems and really, writing them down. If you write something down and then look at it, you really see it, and talking with the person about it and getting views of other people's ideas about lifestyle can help. I mean, Patty can answer that.
I think another thing that's helpful too, and I'm not knowing if you're talking about you're the person from that family who's divorced or you care about someone who's from a divorced family, is mostly to let your friends and let people know, hey, if you need to talk, I'm here, I'll listen to you when you're ready, and not to push people, because we all take our time in terms of talking and being ready to share what's on our minds. And I think just letting people know that you're there and that if you need to talk, I'm here, just give me a call.
I think sometimes, too, the first thing may not be to talk about the abuse, but to just be a friend, to go to a movie, to go skating, to laugh at a teacher who's making a real fool of himself in the hallway. You do that not during class. But things that are low-key and low-risk build to other things that then allow the relationship to be at a point where you can talk to them about stuff that's more meaningful.
You don't want to, especially kids in situations that are very hard, like addicted parents or abused. They're being asked this all the time.
Right.
What happened? What happened? Explain it to me. You just want to be their friend. You want to be there for them. And that's, I think, what they need in situations like that. We have a phone line right now, Forest City High School in Forest City. Hello, you're on the air.
This is Mike Russ from Forest City High School. How can you get your parents to acknowledge your opinion, and why is it so hard for your parents to talk to their kids?
To acknowledge what? Your feelings?
Your parents to talk to you.
How would you get your parents to, express themselves to you and to talk to you?
I talked about before, just keeping things open with your parents, and saying like how Eric talked about before, how I feel this way, maybe making them realize that they're not, communicating with you, and that you, but that you need to, need to know what's going on and understand what they're feeling, and just, tell them how you're feeling, and say, I need some input, I need to know why you're not, expressing yourself, or if you just didn't realize you weren't.
And like we said before, you don't have to communicate with your parents only when something bad happens or only when you want something, because once they start feeling that you only talk to them when you need something or you want something, then they get this feeling like you don't really want to talk to me. And if you have a relationship with your parents on a one-to-one basis and a friendly basis, then it would be easier to discuss problems.
Just talk about what's going on and what you've been up to.
Okay, we have a question in the audience.
My name's Ian Bushbaum. I'm from West Marshall. And how are we supposed to communicate with our parents about sex and drugs?
See, that's something that I was talking about earlier. It's easier said than done, and I wouldn't be surprised if most households don't talk about it. I mean,
I think it's very. We talk about secrets in families, and I think that there's a lot of secrets that are kept in families. Sex is one secret, drugs is a secret, alcohol is. Frequently, we don't talk about that. One of the first things you might try is telling them what you're feeling before you even talk about that. Like, I'm real scared to talk with you about this. And then get into what you want to talk about. Because sometimes I think, gosh, I'm so scared I can't do this. They're going to yell at me and they're going to think I'm doing this and I'm not. I also, the second idea I'd have after you tell them that you're scared is use teachable moments. Teachable moments are maybe when you're all watching Family Ties and the topic comes up about drugs and sex. Use that as a way to talk about some of your own feelings. you know, sometimes I think that way, Mom, or Mom, did you ever think about drugs or sex? I mean, I don't know. You know.
Yeah, well,
Parents thought about it. That was on our minds. You know.
in most households, the parents think, well, my kids aren't doing it yet, so I'm not going to worry about discussing it. Those are the ones that are doing these things and need to be talked to. We have another. We have a phone call from North Kossuth Middle School in Sioux City.
What do you do when you feel teachers don't listen to the students?
When you what? I'm sorry.
What do you do when you feel teachers don't listen to the students?
When teachers don't listen to the students, gosh, that's, you know, what would you do if...
I'd probably address the teacher. I felt he wasn't, hearing our side, or maybe a guidance counselor or someone other than that teacher, and ask them for help. It just doesn't seem like he's hearing he or she is hearing us and listening to our points of view. And I just like some help, or should I talk to that person? Maybe some people that know that teacher better than the students do, since he doesn't listen to us.
And Topper, what would you tell someone that comes to you and says, this teacher isn't really listening to me?
Well, again, I'd probably go back to keep it private. Recognize that some teachers, like we're real people, we don't have the capacity to listen. Sorry about that. And go on. I mean, if you take a shot at it and you try, and you do it privately and you do it as respectfully as you can, and then they're still not listening, go on with life. If you make life your mission to complain about that teacher, you're stuck.
You can't
it's over.
dwell on problems like
it's
that.
It's over. It's done.
Okay, we have another phone call. Hello, you're on.
Yeah.
Hello, I guess.
How do you communicate with people who dislike you?
How do you communicate with people that dislike you? Gosh. That's one thing that comes up with a defensive thing. You always have this hard, and when they dislike you, you automatically dislike them right back. And you never communicate with that. If you really took the time and let these people know, I'm a person too. What don't you like about me? And confront the person. Not in public or anything, but just ask them, what do I do that bothers you so much? And who knows? Maybe you guys will end up best friends. But it's a real hard situation, especially being young, because there's so much with peer pressure. What did you say?
There's a couple things that happen. We communicate in lots of ways, but two main ones are verbally and non-verbally. And I truly believe that sometimes inside people think what they're communicating in the face and their body posture shows one thing, but actually it's not. I mean, what you may look like to someone is real big or tough or real scary, and you're really not. And so when you communicate something honestly, I think it's important to be aware of what your body, if I'm saying, yeah, I really like you a lot and I want to get to know you, and you're all crumped up, well, people aren't going to get close to you because you're pushing them away with your body posture. And I think that's important. I mean, it may not be that they don't like you, you may be intimidating or something to them. Mm-hmm. And so, trying to open your body posture more, to be more open to them.
And also, you can't dwell on people not liking you. There's always going to be one person that really just doesn't like your ways. And that's, especially in high school. And the way you dress, people don't like, they're afraid to like anything else other than their style. We have an audience.
Tina, could if I could just, I'm going to take about 1 minute on this, if you don't mind. I saw a person down in the front row. I won't point this out. But anyway, the question was asked, what do you do when somebody doesn't like you? And he went, like that. Which is that, but I won't look at you as you do that. But that's one way that we communicate. And I want to do this real quick number on 4 styles of communication. Aggressive, and usually people who communicate aggressively get aggression back. Passively, that's people who feel like the best thing I can do is hide my feelings. And those people usually hide them to the point of doing what Lynn showed us in the beginning, where you pull out that big dagger later. And we've got a lot of autopsies we've done on the Mansons of the world, he was such a nice, quiet young kid, and then they go crazy. Passive-aggressive, where they hold it inside and then they go drink it away. You hold all your feelings in here, and then on Friday night you have a 6-pack to drink it away. And what we literally work on teaching adults and youth at the same time is being more assertive, where you don't get run over, but you don't run over others either. And that's that stuff that Eric and Missy have talked to us about here's where I am, and listening to them. And so that's with people that don't like me, I try to be assertive, hear them, but not get run over by it. And gee, poor me, aren't I stupid?
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
Okay, we have an audience question.
Hi, I'm Misty Bodorf, and I have a question. Why do teenagers have problems communicating with their parents and teachers? Is it because of the age?
There's a thing that we talked about with the defensive thing. You know, there's always this wall that's up there, this block. How do you communicate with your teachers?
I don't mean to put everybody down, but I think we as teenagers don't try to see our parents and teachers' side as much as we should.
But in many cases, the parents don't see the student side as well.
But I know, because
So
I know I
it's
used to be
unequal.
that way with my parents, and once I realized that I wasn't listening to them, I just expected them to listen to me like we talked about earlier. I realized that if we would hear them too and see their side, that is a lot of why we have problems communicating, I think.
I think, too, one thing about communicating is that it's a skill that we learn, and we learn a whole lot from our parents. And, you know, a lot of our parents didn't learn about communicating. They learned from their parents and on down. And so, you know, it's like maybe not so much the kids don't know how to communicate, but our parents don't know how to communicate real well either. I mean, it's something that both sets of people can learn to do.
Yeah, communicating is a big part of life, and we have to always remember that. I'm sorry, but we've run out of time now, and I'd like to thank our panel, Patty, Eric, Missy, and Topper. Thank you guys for being here. We all appreciate that you've shared some of your valuable experiences with us. Thank you. And before today's program began, Lynn Jones had some members of our studio audience demonstrate their artistic and communication talents. Let's see how they did.
Yes, well, we had about 20 people volunteer. Maybe were pulled from the audience, I'm not sure. But what I asked y'all to do, the volunteers, was to just draw a picture, doodle a picture real quick of how you're feeling right now. And this was right before the show, and you remember how you were, what are we going to be doing? Oh my gosh, I'm going to be on TV. And so this is, I think we have some on the monitor, but I'll point to these too. I picked 6. We had 20 great pictures. I wish I could show them all. We don't have enough time. So I just grabbed 6 that show how these teens were feeling right before the show. And I think I wouldn't have to say anything, and you could pretty much read what was going on inside of them. This first one, I also asked to write on the back, just explain a little bit about how you're feeling, and write it on the back. This one is more of an abstract kind of drawing, which I think is really neat. It doesn't have to look like something. It just expresses insides. And this was a burst of energy, impulse, energy, and nervousness. And you can see this is probably the center of the person and everything bursting out. And I think we can all relate to that feeling sometimes, just, you know? And that says it right there. This is great. These are so expressive. I love it to see this, that we all have this inside of us, you know, to be able to just put it down on paper. This one, what would you say? How do you think this person was feeling? A bit overwhelmed, a bit nervous. This is a feeling we all do, you know? I mean, you'll doodle when you're on the phone, or think about it. When you're on the phone sometime and you're talking to somebody you really don't want to be talking to, and you're doodling on the phone book, and it's just kind of, oh, I don't really like this person. Your insides come out onto the paper as you express yourself. And this is one of them, that anxious or nervous feeling. That's just a real common cross-cultural thing that we do. I thought this was great, too. This one, I got to read. This is what he, she, or it said on the back. I wasn't meaning that mean. I just didn't want y'all to know whether it was a he or a she. This is really weird that my picture might be on TV. I'm nervous, and when I'm nervous, I get the giggles and make other people laugh. Now, we're going to probably hear this person out there, right? You gave yourself away. This is really exciting. If you see, there's all kinds of confusion and excitement and colors, and you see the person's face on there, and here it says weird. And I think this also is real expressive. It shows excitement. It shows confusion. And it's really neat also that this person knows. You know, a lot of times teachers will say, well, this is just someone being a jerk when they're giggling and making other people laugh. This person knows, when I'm nervous, I giggle. I can't help it. And it comes out, and then other people laugh. And so you're knowing something about yourself. You're aware of something. And to be able to express that, to help other people know, this is where I'm coming from. I'm not doing it just to be mean. So I think that's a really good point, that you're understanding yourself enough to say that. Then here we have one. My heart goes out to this person because I really know this feeling. It says, I don't know anyone. I'm confused. And that feeling of isolation, that question mark, it's like, what am I doing here? They just pulled me from school and put me on this bus. And here are the other people over here talking and having a good time. Not knowing this person, but seeing this picture, I have this real connection of understanding that basic feeling of aloneness. And again, and this was a theme, too, that I think maybe y'all wouldn't be able to just say right out. Boy, sometimes I feel so alone and so abandoned and so confused and lost. It's hard to just say that. But here, y'all drew pictures and gave them to somebody you didn't even know and expressed this vulnerable aspect. Here again, this person says, I feel like an outsider because I don't know anybody here except the people from my school, and I don't know how to act. So here are the lots of people, and here's me with the question mark. And that feeling is real understandable. To be able to express that to somebody takes a lot of courage and a lot of risk, and I appreciate that. It's maybe not as threatening to do it when you're doing it on paper, and that's a real start. Any kind of scribble, any kind of doodle, any kind of thing can be expressive, and I hope you realize that. This last one, I just think is cute as a button. Here it says, I drew a smile on my face and fireworks because I'm pretty happy today. You see this face. But I also drew a bed and a box of Kleenexes because I'm tired and have a cold. So here we have somebody being real concrete about how they're feeling and expressing all of these aspects at the same time. I think we've got some people who have a real sense of self, too. They all have a centered place in their picture. Where they can connect with their essence, if that makes any sense. You know, it's not totally lost on the page. So I'm excited that y'all did this, and thank you for doing it. And I hope that you'll just continue to keep drawing.
Thank you, Lynn. And thanks to the students in the audience, both here in our studios and the phone centers. Your questions and your willingness to communicate with us makes the show really special. Thank you. And remember, to be a good communicator takes work. So remember, don't be afraid to listen and don't be afraid to talk. What you have to say is very important. See you next time on Students' Voices and Students' Choices. If you should need help with a problem that seems too difficult to handle, call Teen Line, toll-free for information and referral. That's 1-800-443-8336. 1-800-443-TEEN. You're not alone.
Major funding for Student Voices, Student Choices was provided by Friends of Iowa Public Television and the Des Moines Register.
The preceding program was originally broadcast live on October 16, 1989.